As I have been working on couple of medieval scenes from last couple of months, which I started with low poly scenes, have really helped me to grow as an artist from the point of lighting, compositing, and color management. And definitely all these scenes and the efforts behind these artworks is loved and appreciated by many people, including every one of you. So due to this fact, I felt like it's the right time to step up the game with more complexity and challenges in the environment scene. So I present you this medieval village artwork which I named as Homecoming. As I already told you guys in my previous tutorial that I am a big fan of dawn and dusk lighting, so I was really excited about working on this scene from the start. The inspiration about this artwork actually came from a song, Back Home, from an album Mobile Orchestra by Owl City. Adam Young described the whole scenario like a traveler who is going back from city full of skylines to home full of tree lines, and while listening to the lyrics, this scene just clicked in my mind, and that someone who has came home from a long journey is enjoying the first day's fresh morning, the warmth of sunrise, and admiring the view of his own town somewhere from grassfield near water stream with couple of birds and horses around him. Probably that's my wish to live this moment, so I put all the effort I could gather to render this out and share it with you people. So let's get started with the entire workflow and the tricks I used while creating this medieval village scene. So starting with blocking out the scene. Everything started with this small and simple Bezier curve, which is in fact our water stream, dividing the terrain in two parts. As I already knew how to approach towards the scene with perspective and angle as a viewer, I already had this feeling about placing the water channel right somewhere near to the viewer's eye, and dividing the proportions in 30-70 ratio, to balance the overall composition from both sides of the water channel. Adding curvatures with different diameter sizes along the water channel really represented them as a solid foundation of the scene composition. I personally felt that if I choose the direction and length in between the curvatures something else, it would have hilariously impacted the mood, feelings, and composition of the scene. And finally, after getting the water stream in the right position with the appropriate curvatures and direction, now it's time to start working on the terrain. And I simply used water stream to create the terrain out of it. I simply duplicated the vertices from water stream and extruded them out from both sides to create the terrain. Lower the water stream level a little bit and it will give you the appropriate slope around the water stream. Now it's time to shape the terrain right according the way I want it to be. Entire composition and mood of the scene is 100% dependent on the look of the terrain. And that is why I simply start experimenting with terrain in edit mode to get the bumps out. I also applied a subdiv modifier on level 1 to smooth it out a little bit. Also used a couple of sculpting strokes to get the overall shape right. Then I placed a block to place the stone bridge over water stream and joining both sides, and experiment a little bit to make it look appealing. Now the last important thing was to add his path, approaching from stone bridge to right side through houses of the town, going towards end of the top hill, which I created with a plane in edit mode and adjusted it all over the bumpiness of the terrain. So now we have the basic foundation of blocks to start building our scene by adding more details into it. Before adding anything into scene, let's set up the lighting of the scene pretty quickly. So I used Nishita lighting as always to adjust the lighting to dawn, adjusting values to rotate the sun towards left side at horizon with that breathtaking morning warmth. And once lighting is done, time to add another details into the scene. Let's add the stone bridge as our first detail. All the textures used for making these models are in the description box. I adjusted the bridge carefully from both sides to keep the path on same level of terrain surface, and it really looked amazing. And all the details I added in stone bridge like timber and stones texture really fit well with the overall composition of the scene. Now before adding other details into the scene, let's first apply materials to our water and ground. For water, I will simply use a principal shader with transmission on and roughness turned down to 0. Also change IOR values to 1.33 for water and lower the base color value a little bit, and that's all. But for ground we will apply a clay material, so connect all texture to shaders and play with UV scale until it fits with the terrain. Now it's time to throw some vegetation into the scene. So I decided to apply grass on all the visible area around the water channel on both sides. But here comes the tricky part as always. I never use weight paint method to apply grass particles and then use vertex groups to apply them on specific points. It's time consuming and have less control on particles layer. Rather than applying weight paint, simply duplicate the ground plane where you wanna apply the grass and then simply add grass layers to those duplicated grass planes, and there we go. I also created a path in between grass area on right side by simply deleting vertices in between the plane. And right after that, terrain with grass started to look amazing. But here comes another problem. The entire background has clay material, not grass. And definitely I can't apply grass to such large scale for my computer's sake. So here comes another trick from the devil's mind. I simply used a moss texture and applied it right behind the grass plane to all over the ground terrain, leaving paths and grass area untouched. And voila, it worked. It worked with overall composition and doesn't look bad and gives viewer a pleasant appeal. I tweaked hue saturation values a little bit to adjust the color tones and match it with grass to avoid any kind of color variation in composition. And I added a little variation with texture paint on paths to make them look realistically variational, which they indeed did. So now let's add houses and scene to set up the town. And for that I have created multiple medieval structures with different variations. 2 houses are used from my previously created medieval house projects and reused them to create new ones. I worked on these houses a little bit for a while and did texture painting for grunges and all to achieve the realism. Then I started to place these houses and towers one by one, as I have seen and been part of mountains life, so I am quite aware of their culture, houses and their placements, the way they live their lives, so it was easy for me to adjust the overall look of the town even with few houses. So I placed them all with my own feelings and judgment from life experiences, and they really started to appeal amazingly with the overall composition. Now it was the time to add another biggest object of the scene, which are trees. I only used 2 trees. First one is the oak tree and another one is the spruce. First I worked with oak tree. Placement of trees and distributing them among houses is not easy at all. It can totally blow out your composition in few minutes with wrong placement. So it took me around 3-4 experiments to settle down with the final trees placement. I also placed spruce trees on the opposite side of the houses. I kinda had a hunch that they're gonna fit best and felt great there in the opposite side of houses, and they indeed did. I wanted to keep the background a little bit open and spacey from light and woods, so I kept it empty without rushing with trees. Scene almost starting to pile up with details and starting to feel good. But still the roads leading towards the town doesn't look broadly highlighted, so it's time to add lampposts to lead eyes towards roads of the scene. So right after adding lampposts, scene started to look more civilized with the overall look. The textures I used to create the lampposts are in the description box. Everything starting to feel good, but the ground feels quite clean and empty. So it's time to throw some stones. I placed all stones with my own judgment and where my heart felt great with the placement. I think that's where you need your life's experience the most. Placing these fillers by following my heart always works fine for me. I also added couple of bigger size stones in the background so that grass field behind the scene doesn't feel too empty. Now it's time to add debris on the roads. So I created some small sized broken sticks and stones as debris and used object scatter to place it very randomly on all over the grass field and along all the sides of the roads. And instantly it added more depth and realism to the scene. Now scene is starting to feel more natural, but it lacks life. So this time I decided to add some birds and animals. I had some low poly birds to add in the sky in the background, but not the high poly or texture based animals to add them on ground or right in front of my camera. So first, I decided to create them as I always do, but then I decided to check some free models online if there are any which can work. So I found a website which is named as free3d.com, which had the horse with cart and these chickens as free models. Links are in the description box, you can check them out if you want to. Finding them was one deal, but placing them on their right places was another. First I placed the horse with car right here on the right side of the road. I kinda wanted it there as cart was stored somewhere on roadside either to abort people or drop them, or it's just stored for some another reason. It's kinda add a mystery to the composition. Then I started working on these small chickens. They felt really great here. Their black and white color really worked well with the overall composition of the scene. This is the first time in my life I'm literally using any free model in my work. Otherwise, I always create my own stuff. Even my own grass package is example of that. And now finally we're left with this horsey. It took me a while to place a horse on its perfect spot. It looked really great on some specific points on the ground, but I found its presence more impactful right before that stone and near those chickens while looking towards them. Now scene almost starting to look complete except for sky, which just looks too clean and clear, and that is why I am about to add some low poly birds in the background, which I actually created for my low poly environment scenes. But for distant objects, you can even use the low poly objects. So I placed them way far away in the sky and they really look nice. Now it's time to add clouds. Not the volumetrics one, but PNG or alpha images as clouds. Also added couple of smoke planes on our chimney so that it feels like at least 1 or 2 houses are actually have chimney in use in morning. And finally, all these things worked together with each other and contributed to render the scene into this beautiful, outstanding medieval morning. Lighting is feeling so cozy, warm and welcoming. I'd probably lay down on grass for a few hours and enjoy the breeze if I could be there myself. Water stream really felt great with the composition. The way it is partitioning the terrain from center with shining water filled in it. The randomness of the grass on the curved section of the terrain feels so natural that it literally lights up the mood with warm sunlight from the dawn. Everything just came out exactly the way it was supposed to be, and the results definitely looking outstanding. If you like the content, please like the video and share with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any upcoming future videos. You can also follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Outstation. If you have something to say, feel free to leave it in the comment section. I will get to that as soon as I possibly can. So thanks for watching, stay safe and I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.